Okay, let me introduce our final speaker for today, Mr. Kelly Yong, Director Data Analytics from Sentosa Development Corporation. So he leads the data and analytics team in Sentosa Development Corporation and has over 20 years experience delivering value through analytics across various industry verticals spanning defense, government, logistics, banking, retail, F&B, and telecommunications. So just to share with everyone, Sentosa Development Corporation, SDC, is a statutory board under the Ministry of Trade and Industry. So they run and promote the island of Sentosa. SDC oversees the development, management, marketing, promotion, of Sentosa as a resort destination for locals and tourists. SDC's problem statement today is delighting guests with a data-driven experience. So without further ado, over to you, Kelly. Good afternoon to you.
Thanks. Let me try and share my screen. Yeah.
Sure. Sorry, I didn't realize that you were already online. I was
No
looking
problem.
desperately
Yeah.
for you. The stage all yours.
Yes, thanks. Yeah. Right.
Are you sharing your screen or we can share your slides?
I can share my slides. I think I'm having some problems sharing the screen. Yeah, thanks.
Here we go. Okay, so you just say next and we'll move on to the next slide for you.
Sure. Next, please. Yeah. Yeah, very good afternoon, everyone. So basically, I want to share about the challenge today that Sentosa is bringing to the Open Innovation platform. Right. So let me just go through a quick introduction to SDC or Sentosa. Share a little bit of a background, understanding of how Sentosa runs the island and the kind of roles we play as a placemaker and also the statutory board that is actually running the whole island itself and the problem statement that we are looking at and what we are looking for and what's in it for the solvers, some of the possible use cases, and probably I'll not touch on the evaluation criteria and the timeline and we can move on to the Q&A, right? Next, please. Yeah. Right. So as you know, Sentosa is actually a stat board that was incorporated in 1972, right? Solely with the intent of actually promoting tourism, and we play many roles as a precinct manager, right? And we have many entities under us as well, right? So we run attractions. That is through our subsidiary, the One Faber Group. So the cable cars, the Faber group of attractions, and also restaurants is actually under us. We have the world's best golf course, which is actually under Sentosa Golf Club. And we also manage municipal issues because there is actually residents right on the island itself under the Sentosa Cove resort management. And among many things, we also aggregate the different attractions and go and promote the islands and also our what we call the island partners offerings out to the world as well. So that's what we do as SDC. We are also a precinct manager, right? So we operate the island itself. And as you can imagine, the island precinct itself is fairly large, right? To put it in context, it's almost equivalent to the whole of the Clementi town itself, right? That's how large the island is, right? And with this really poses a challenge for us to really understand where our guests are, which I will come to in a while's time, right? So we do take care of many things. We take care of make sure there's service ambassador, right, to serve guests on the island. We take care of the security. We also manage the transportation routes along the island as well, right? So we have the Sentosa Express, what we used to call the monorail, but it's actually express. We run the trams. That's really the last mile. And one of the things that we are constantly trying to understand is actually getting from Vivo City to the island or taking a transport in, you probably will land in one of the key nexus point, which is actually the beach station itself. But after that, is our last mile service kind of sufficient? That is also tying in with where our guests are across the entire island at all times. And is our way finding proposition good enough, right? Today we have what we call the digital maps and the wayfinder across the maps in the island itself, but is that sufficient, right? And one of the key things we couldn't quite really pinpoint is actually the demographics, right? Especially right now is a lot of locals, right? When you go, when things are better and all the borders are reopening, right? When we have tourists inside, and that presents an even more a pressing challenge for us, right? How do we really understand who actually comes onto the island itself, right? So if you can go to the next slide, please. Next. Right, so you can see the island itself is very complex, right? So we, as I mentioned, we have more than 6,000 residents on the island. We have a golf course. We have more than 200 F&B and retail outlets. We have the big integrated resort, RWS. We have more than 30 attractions and 17 hotel rooms, rather 17 hotels with more than 3,000 rooms, right? If you go on to the next slide, and you can see how Sentosa is being organized, right? So they are specific thematic areas that we kind of zone out. So we have the three beaches, which is one of the main attractions when people come to the island itself. We have Sentosa, Tanjung, and Palawan, right? And each of them are themed differently. So it's a chill out, it's a family kind of beach, it's a hip, cool, and energetic kind of area as well. Now we do have heritage, a rich heritage. There's Fort Siloso, there's Tanjung Rimau, there's also nature trails, which actually has goes back all the way to the World War era, right? So there's even a Fort Serapong right smack in the middle, somewhere near the golf course. A very rich diversity of flora and fauna around that as well. We have about 10% of the heritage trees in Singapore, and there's also the big mega family entertainment with the integrated resort as well. Right, if you go to the next slide, please. Now, so really what I was alluding to earlier, right? So the key challenge for Sentosa, right, is how to we better understand the various visitor segments and how do they move across the island. As I mentioned, right, how are we able to distinguish the profiles of the visitor, whether they are locals or tourists? And I think more importantly is actually how possibly could we reach out to them, right? And as SDC or in the tourism industry, right, we are really in the business of creating and delivering experience for guests on the islands. And there's a need to constantly enhance and understand what they like and what appeals to them, especially when they're on the island itself, right? And better insights really allow us, right, to kind of design a frictionless visitor journey. And one of the key tenet of what we intend to put out there is actually to capture insights of the guest behaviors, right, across the different parts of the days and across different environment, right? Sentosa is unique in that sense that we are not a mall, right? In a mall is indoor environment, right? So it can put a lot of sensors and pretty much able to capture some of the insights of visitor flow, right? But we are actually a mostly outdoor environment, right? Of course, there are indoor attractions as well, and coupled with a day and night kind of environment, right? And again, I allude back to, let's say, a more indoor building, right? The day and night kind of doesn't play that much of impact because lighting is sufficient. But in a place such as Sentosa, because of the ambient lighting, the day and night environment does make a difference. And also, we wanted something that is kind of all-weather terrain as well, right? That enables us, if there's a sensor solution that is being proposed, right? So what we are looking at is really the ability to capture the insights of the guests really across different parts of the day and all environments as well, right? If you go on to the next slide, yeah. Right, so really the design and the challenge statement here was really how might we understand the visitor segments on island behaviors and profiles in a near real-time fashion, yet in a non-intrusive way to delight our guests, right? So that's really the question and the challenge that we are trying to solve, and we hope the solvers can actually put forth some solutions that address this question. Go on to the next slide, please. Right. So what are we looking for, right? We are looking for a solution that can really support the Sentosa team, right, in really understanding the behaviors and profile. Key consideration, right? The ability to capture on-site data, that's important. It needs to collect appropriate data that can actually allow us to link back and connect with the guests on site. And basically what we want to do is the ability to identify patterns on behavioral and customer insights. Of course, one of the key business value proposition we have is with both the marketing team and also with the operations team as well, right? I mentioned earlier, operations team take care of the safety of our guests, the transportation, right? The crowd levels, right? If there's a crowd forming, especially in current times, right? There needs to be a deployment of resources down to the particular area, right? To dissipate the crowds. Of course, marketing is continuously giving out the appropriate offers to the right segment of people at the right time as well, right? To increase kind of the satisfaction when they are on the island, to show them places they may not have thought about, because Sentosa has many hidden gems, and people who are not familiar with the island or do not come to the island as often may overlook them as well, right? The third area that I think is important is about taking actions, right? Recommendations for marketing team using the data that's being collected, pushing messages, right, to the predicted needs and informing the operations team of potential crowds as well. I mentioned that. Fourth is actually privacy, right? Of course, it must be secure because we are collecting personal data as well. So it should be non-intrusive while respecting some of the privacy regulations as well. Fifth is actually the ability to integrate with current systems. Because we are actually drawing data, the solvers will be actually capturing data. I think the ability to integrate with our existing system for both the operations and also the marketing side of the house is very important, right? Because we don't want a kind of a closed loop system that can't interoperate with what we already have in place, right? If you go to the next slide. Yeah, so having said that, one of the key consideration or key evaluation criteria on how the solvers might propose is the scalability and the maintainability of the solution, right? Because when we look at a map, the island is fairly large, right? If we do, let's say, deploy actually on-site solution, right? How can it scale? And how can it maintain it as well, right? If it's actually an on-island solution, right? And one of the key things that we wanted to do, right, for the purpose of the prototype and the challenge itself, the solution should actually kind of capture at least two distinct sites within Sentosa, right, ready for us to conduct the evaluation. And I mentioned earlier, one of the key nexus points is really the beach station. You take the Sentosa Express from Vivo and you head in all the way. The last station, that's the beach station. The other station will be at the RWS station as well. That's also one of the key nexus. But we do find more people coming in to the beach station, and then they go on to the various attractions and the F&B outlets as well. Right. If you go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So here is actually how a potential use case might look like. This is to bring it to life. Let's say if the solution is in place, what would it look like? So that's the setting up the storyline. You know, the typical family from France is coming in to visit the Sentosa Island during their trip to Singapore. Yes, the father would have kind of visited Sentosa briefly. Maybe he was on a previous MICE or business trip, and he decided to bring the family here to enjoy some outdoor activities. Now, when they enter the island, they could be overwhelmed, right? But exactly what to do, since it's fairly large, and language barrier may, of course, compound the issue as well, right? And when being a family, they definitely would want to go to kids friendly attractions. But no, when they come to the island, they realize, hey, these attractions does have long waiting queues upon arrival, right? So what do they do next, right? So go to the next slide, right? Yeah. So Yeah, so basically what we kind of conceptualize the solution to help us is actually via an app, right? Basically, they can kind of look and suggest where they were, right? And because we do have contextual awareness of where they happen to be walking around the island, not going to any of the attractions for about good half an hour, right? So there's contextual awareness of where they are, the dwell behavior as well, the locality, because they are just around the outskirts, not going anywhere and then kind of wandering around, right? And the app kinds of actually propose a potential information to them, right? To allow them to say, hey, you might want to consider visiting certain attractions. You might want to consider going to Luge at a later time, which is less crowded. And meanwhile, before you go to Luge, you can actually hang out for lunch at some of the child-friendly restaurant that's right around you, right? And what this shows is actually the ability to connect and integrate with the multiple systems that we have. And of course, the front end itself is a My Sentosa app, but the solutions kind of give context to where they are, what kind of profile they are as a visitor segment or guest segment, what they were wanting to do, right? Because they were looking and trying to look for kids uh, related attractions, right? And you kind of propose to them, right, what they can do, and actually give them better satisfaction in terms of going there when it's less crowded, right? And actually, by the way, while you're waiting for the attractions to be less crowded, that's in the meanwhile you can actually have lunch, right? So this is actually what we kind of envisage the solution to kind of power, right? So it's able to detect and profile. It's able to connect and integrate with various systems in SDC, right? And also, because of the data being collected, right, it's able to suggest options and actions, right? So that's really the power of the data and insights being collected through the solution that might be proposed, right? We go to the next slide, please. Yeah. Right. So I think one of the key thing that we really want to emphasize, we do understand there are many solutions out there, but one of the key thing that we really wanted was the key business outcomes, right? Because there are many ways of collecting information at an environment, right? Be it sensors, be it through apps. But one of the key things that we kind of haven't quite got round to is actually how can we do what we call the last mile in terms of delivering value, right? Be it through marketing messages, right? And also put forth early indications of the island situation picture, right, to the operations team. I think that's something that we are solely focused in this challenge, right? Because we really wanted the ability of not just capturing the data, but being able to connect and reach out and power the business needs and issues that they're facing, right? So I think in that vein, right? So the solution should really consider this the ability to have actually the intelligence, right, and to inform the two key business units that would be very much interested in how people behave on the island itself, right? Yeah, and both areas collectively, right, would actually improve the visitor satisfaction, right? If you go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So, all right. So, what's in it for you? Probably I'll not go through line by line, but yes, we do. You do understand, of course, what's in it for you from this challenge itself. But I think the key things is actually because the challenge itself is actually very localized, right? Two small areas that we want to test out the concept. But what we intend to do when the solution is successful, proven positive, we will want to actually bring it forward to a larger adoption across the entire island. And of course, having access to the island to test bit and prototype your solution as well. And yeah, we're very much happy to be a reference for you to use in other markets and in other use cases in other industries as well, right? Go to the next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah, the evaluation criteria, I'll probably not go through that. Kind of written down in the challenge as well, right? If you go to the next one, yeah, this is just the deadline itself. Yep. So yeah, thanks. And I think with this, I've come to the end of the challenge itself, right? Describing a little bit more. Happy to take any questions and answers, right?
Thank you, Kelly. Sincerely appreciate. Okay, there is one person, Hilai Alam. He's asking whether he can get this slide. So just a quick answer to that. This session is actually recorded, so the video recording of this will be published on the OIP platform. So within this challenge itself, so you can go back to see all the slides from the video itself. Okay, over to the question and answer session. So Kelly, you can also click on the Q&A section to see some of the questions. So thank you, Frank, for all your compliments with regards to Sentosa being beautiful. Please visit more often, and we will definitely test out the app that you have shared. Okay, so um, is there a specific question that you would like to ask, Frank? Just type it in the Q&A section. Yep. Same for everyone else. So, okay, there's a question from Kenneth Lim. So we understand Sentosa has run pilots on RFID bands before in the past. Can we understand more about some of the challenges faced and whether any systems still exist today?
Right. So yes, because we are also trying to we are really in the vein of innovation, right? We have tested many different kind of technologies I mentioned earlier, right? But one of the key things that we still have today is some form of video feeds as well, right? Video analytics. But that coverage is not comprehensive, it's not across the entire island, right? So yeah, so that's what we have, right? And I really want to go back to the key uh, thing I kind of covered, right? The key is about bring the data to life, right? With the last mile actions, right? Both with the marketing and both with the operations, right? Today we see more beyond just the trial of the technology, right? But more of the trial of the concept of technology that is able to power the business needs. I think that's more important in this challenge, right? Yes, there are many technologies out there, very much able to solve parts of the problem in one way or another. But I think the key challenge here is not so much on the technical, but it's actually to bring it to life onto the business application side of things, right? I think that's important, right? And that's what we are looking for in this particular challenge, right?
Thanks, Kelly. So there's a question from Andy Wong. I'll just quote verbatim. So, hi Kelly, can problem solver get the list of captured data overview before the deadline so we can think about the analytics? So maybe I'll just cover one part of this question. So I don't think Kelly would be able to share all the data structures, but the key focus should be, like what Kelly mentioned, be on the operations. How and what kind of data can be brought to life? What kind of data can you capture so that the operations and the businesses can benefit from this data? Kelly, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, correct. So really the core, besides the business application of it, is the ability for the solvers to actually facilitate the capturing of data as well, right? Through the technologies that you might want to propose, be it the bands, be it the sensors, or be it any other kind of technology out there. I think that's the key thing that we are looking at.
So which brings me on to the next question from an anonymous attendee. So he has stated that CCTVs mounted around Sentosa can be utilized for the solution. Yes, I believe it can be utilized, but I think what powers the data, or what kind of data is extracted from the CCTVs with regards to the AI engine that powers, the images that are being captured, and how that data is being utilized. So that's what you are looking for as well, right, Kelly?
Yeah, I think CCTVs has it is good. It captures very well in bright daylight, right? If it's rainy at night, it doesn't do so well, right? So that's one of the challenge, right? And some of the CCTV cameras are a little bit older. I would say that they are not exactly very good for video analytics. The other challenge is actually how then can we get a consistent person? Say for example myself, right? I move from one frame to another frame across different cameras, right? How do you make sense of that? That's something that let's say if you're able to kind of put forth a solution, we'll be happy, right? To accept that as well. That's I mean, these two are the two key challenges we have with CCTV images, right?
So you are looking for video analytics solutions layered with data analytics.
I kind of left it open.
Okay.
Video
Okay.
analytics with AI could be one, right? Or sensor-based kind of technology could be another one. We are not so prescriptive in this sense. Yeah.
It's
So
open for innovation. Yes.
correct, correct. We really want to see what the industry can come up with that really addresses the business needs. Yeah.
Okay. So there's one question: when tickets are purchased, can we use camera to capture visitors' face? So perhaps maybe you address some of the PDPA issues with regards to capturing of facial information, whether it can be done.
Yeah, I think that's a bit tricky, right? Especially with the EU residents, right? Yeah, EU residents are a little bit tricky. Yeah, that is something that I would probably be a little bit cautious about. Yeah, because GPDR does imposes quite onerous demands, right, on organization. Not only for consumers, right, even for enterprise data as well. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me see any other questions. How does data privacy impact this project from Sentosa's point of view? Christopher Tew.
So yeah, let me see.
How does data privacy impact this project?
Right. So I guess a lot of this is also consent based because in that use case that you saw, what we think about is actually once you download the app, you have also given your consent as well, right? So in that aspect, right? Yeah. So therefore, you have given your consent to capture the data to understand more about you as you come onto the island as well, and therefore we can actually push the right messages to you. Yep.
Okay. Mike Zhang has asked, have you had any privacy concerns that was flagged previously in any of the pilot and trials conducted at Sentosa? Privacy concerns.
Correct. So definitely, right? So whatever technologies that we were looking at and thinking about, PDPA, GPDR is definitely on the top of our minds, right? And I guess in a way, because we are a tourist destination as well, we do look at it more seriously, especially with GPDR concerns as well, right? With you tourists, right? So that's definitely a key consideration. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mike, for your question. Any other questions, anyone? Please feel free to type in the Q&A section. We'll just give it a minute or so. We are right on time to end at 4:30. Okay, so Mike asks, how will you measure the success of the pilot?
Right. So measure of success is really the business outcome that we can deliver. I think I kind of touch on it multiple times, right? So one is ability to detect the same profile across different locations, of course, with consent given, and the accuracy of the detection as well, right? So that would be something that we are really looking at. And because we are able to do that, that links it back to the two key business divisions that have the need for this technology on the marketing side and also on the operation side. That's how we will structure the measure of success for the pilots. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Any last questions from the solvers? I'll just give 10 seconds. It's been quite a long session compared to last week. Okay. If not, a big thank you, Kelly,
Thank
for
you.
participating, for being here today, for sharing about your problem statement, for answering all the questions. Right. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks.
And also, yeah, thank you. And also a big thank you to everyone for staying on this call and posting all your questions today. Big thank you to the other problem owners that have joined us today as well, to clarify the audience, to clarify questions from the audience. For any unanswered questions, we'll take them onto the OIP forum after the event. We hope to see your submissions for this Innovation Call 9. Remember, the deadline for submission is on the 19th of February. So next week, we will have our final series of Innovation Thursday, and we hope to see you then as well. So IMDA is on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Please help to like, subscribe, and comment. For more information on the challenges, please visit our website at www.openinnovation.sg or email info@openinnovation.sg. So with that, I will say a big thank you to everyone for joining us today, and hope to see you next week. Bye.